If your avoidant partner says these 7 phrases, walk away ASAP. Let me tell you something no one wants to hear but needs to. If you're with someone who keeps pulling away every time you get close, listen up. Because love isn't supposed to feel like you're begging for scraps. It's not a puzzle where you twist yourself into a new shape hoping to fit their broken edges. And if your partner, the one you're holding onto, hoping they'll change, keeps repeating these 7 phrases, it's not just a red flag. It's a neon sign screaming, walk away now, let's get real, here's what they say, I just need space. And suddenly it's days without a text, they disappear like connection is poison, this isn't space. It's emotional starvation, you're too sensitive. Translation, your emotions are inconvenient, your needs are too much. They don't want to deal with you, they want silence. I don't want to talk about this right now. Of course they don't. Because confrontation forces them to be present, but real love, it talks things through, especially when it's hard. I never asked you to do that for me. That's how they minimize your effort so they can escape responsibility. They want the benefits of your love without giving it back. You're overthinking it. No, you're just thinking, and they hate that because thinking might lead you to realize you deserve better. This is just how I am. Translation, I refuse to grow. I refuse to change. That's not personality. That's emotional immaturity. I love you, but there's always a but, always a condition, always something just out of reach. That's not love. That's control wrapped in empty words. Now hear me, you can't fix someone who refuses to meet you halfway. You can't build a future with someone who's constantly looking for the exit. You are not difficult. You are not too much. You are not dramatic. You are a human being with valid needs and a beating heart that deserves safety, not survival mode. And if they keep using these phrases, it's not about you. It's about their fear of intimacy, their avoidance, their emotional wall. But you don't need to break down walls. You need to build a door and walk through it, because the longer you wait for them to change, the longer you abandon yourself. So if these words sound familiar, don't wait for one more cold shoulder. Don't wait for one more I'm just not ready. Walk away, not because you stopped loving them, but because you started loving yourself more. Avoidant partners often use emotionally manipulative phrases to maintain distance. It doesn't always sound like cruelty. In fact, sometimes it sounds soft, measured, even rational. But beneath those carefully chosen words is a clear message asterisk, stay away asterisk. They may not scream, they may not storm out. They just disappear behind a wall of emotional logic and excuses that make you second. Guess your own instincts. They'll say things like, you're overthinking it. As if your feelings are just mental noise. As if your intuition doesn't matter, or they'll calmly state, I just need space. And that sounds reasonable, right, but that space often turns into silent treatments, distance, or days without contact. Not to process, not to reflect, but to avoid accountability, to escape intimacy. They'll throw phrases like, this is just how I am, as if their emotional unavailability is a fixed trait written in stone, as if that somehow exempts them from meeting your needs or making any effort to grow. And when you confront them, when you ask for clarity, suddenly you're too sensitive. Your reaction becomes the problem, not their disconnection. You become the villain in the story for simply wanting closeness. That's how they protect their bubble, by twisting your valid needs into burdens, by framing connection as conflict. They'll also remind you they never asked you to do anything, and it hurts. Because all the love, energy, and care you gave freely now gets rewritten as unnecessary, as if your love was somehow a mistake. This type of language isn't careless, it's calculated. Whether conscious or not, it's designed to keep you chasing them. Because as long as you're questioning yourself, they don't have to face themselves. The more you seek closeness, the more they pull away, and instead of responding with vulnerability, they respond with distance masked as calm detachment. That's not emotional maturity, it's fear in disguise. Avoidants use these phrases like shields to deflect, to dodge, to delay, to avoid the very thing relationships are built on, emotional safety, and yet you stay. Because every now and then they give you just enough warmth, just enough attention, just enough hope, but not enough to build anything real. And in that gap between what you feel and what they give, you slowly begin to disappear from yourself. And they never have to say go away, because their words already do the job. I need space becomes an excuse for emotional disappearance, not healthy boundaries. At first, it sounds fair, reasonable, even mature. We all need space sometimes. We all need time to think, breathe, reset. But when someone says, I need space, and then vanishes, emotionally, physically, mentally, that's not about creating healthy distance. That's about avoiding connection. It's about shutting the door without saying how long they'll be gone or if they'll even come back. It's not a pause for reflection. It's an escape route. It's often used by avoidant partners when things get too real, too close, or too vulnerable. When emotions surface, when intimacy deepens, when you start to ask for more clarity, more consistency, more emotional presence, they don't know how to hold it. So instead they withdraw, and they wrap it in the polite language of space. But here's what actually happens. They stop replying to your messages. They cancel plans without explanation. They stop checking in. They give you silence in the name of healing. But the truth is, they're not healing, they're hiding. They're not setting a boundary, they're building a wall. A healthy boundary is clear, respectful, and temporary. It sounds like, I'm overwhelmed. Can we talk tomorrow after I've had time to process? That's connection with breathing room. That's space with care, but I need space, with no context, no time frame, and no communication. That's emotional neglect in disguise. And over time, you start to internalize it. You start walking on eggshells, afraid to get too close. Afraid to be too needy, too emotional, too much. You start shrinking, trying to make yourself easier to love, trying to make your needs smaller so they won't run again. But no matter how much space you give, it's never enough. Because the issue was never about space, it was about their fear of closeness, their fear of being known, of being seen, so they use I need space not as a tool for growth, but as a shield that keeps you at a distance while still holding on to the benefits of being loved by you. You're left in limbo, never quite together, never fully apart, waiting, always waiting, and the more you wait, the more you start to abandon yourself. You begin to silence your own needs to keep the peace. Do not lose them, but you can't build connection with someone who runs from intimacy. You can't create safety with someone who uses space as a silent punishment, because when I need space becomes a door that never opens again, it's not love. It's avoidance. They dismiss your emotions by calling you too sensitive or overthinking, and they do it so casually, so convincingly, that you start to believe it. You start to wonder if maybe you are overreacting. Maybe you are making things bigger than they need to be. Maybe it really is your fault. But here's the truth. Those words aren't innocent. They're not feedback. They're not care. They're defense mechanisms dressed up as logic. Because when someone calls you too sensitive, what they're really saying is, I don't want to deal with your feelings. They don't want to be held accountable for the impact of their actions. They don't want to hear how their silence hurt you. They don't want to look at how their emotional absence made you question your worth. So instead, they make your reaction the problem. They shift the spotlight away from their behavior and shine it directly on your response. You bring up something that hurt you, and suddenly, it's about how dramatic you are, how emotional, how intense. They'll even say it with a calm tone, like they're being the reasonable one. But that calm is just another form of control. They're not keeping the peace, they're silencing your truth. And when they say you're overthinking it, what they really mean is, don't ask questions, don't look too closely, don't connect the dots I don't want to explain, because your intuition scares them. Your awareness makes them uncomfortable, so they paint it as a flaw, not because it is, but because if you start trusting it, they'll lose control, you'll see the patterns, you'll stop accepting crumbs. You'll stop apologizing for needing clarity, communication, and consistency, but until that day comes, you shrink, you second, guess, you quiet yourself mid-sentence, thinking maybe you are being too emotional. Maybe you should let it go. Maybe it's not worth bringing up. But every time you silence yourself to keep someone else comfortable, you abandon a piece of your truth, and piece by piece, that truth gets buried under self-doubt. Until one day you can't even recognize your own needs without guilt. That's what emotional dismissal does. It's not always loud, it's not always cruel, but it cuts deep because it tells you over and over that your feelings are the problem. And when you believe that long enough, you stop trusting your gut. You stop trusting yourself. They avoid accountability with phrases like, "I never asked you to do that." And they say it like it's the final word. Like that one sentence erases everything you did from a place of love, as if the only things that matter are what they specifically requested. As if your care, your time, your effort don't count unless they begged for it. But love doesn't work that way. You showed up for them. You supported them without being asked. You stayed up late listening when they were falling apart. You made space for their emotions, their needs, their fears. Not because they demanded it, but because you cared, because that's what connection looks like. You gave from the heart. But when it's time for them to step up, to be present, to take responsibility, they deflect. They wipe the slate clean with one sentence, "I never asked you to do that." And just like that, your love becomes a mistake. Your kindness becomes a liability. Suddenly, your asterisk, the one who did too much. Suddenly, your asterisk, the one who overextended, overreached, overgave. But let's be clear, this is not about boundaries. This is not about fairness. This is about dodging emotional responsibility. Because if they admit that your care mattered, then they'd have to admit that their neglect did too. If they accept your love as real, then they'd have to face how they failed to meet it. But instead, they put the blame back on you. They make it seem like your generosity was misplaced, like your emotional investment was your own fault. Like you should have known better than to love them that deeply. So now you're stuck, trying to prove that what you did was valid, trying to get recognition for the ways you showed up. But you won't get it. Not from someone who fears accountability more than they value connection. They'll keep dismissing your actions. They'll keep minimizing your presence because it's easier than saying, "I see how much you gave and I didn't show up for you." That level of truth requires courage. It requires growth, and avoidant partners don't often go there. So instead, they protect themselves with distance and denial. They rewrite the story. They act like your love was unsolicited, like it was uninvited. But deep down, they wanted it, they needed it, they just didn't know how to receive it without feeling exposed, so they push it away, and they do it with words that sound clean, logical, even fair, but underneath, it's avoidance. It's fear. It's a refusal to own the impact they had on someone who only ever wanted to love them. Refusing to talk when things get serious is a control tactic, not a communication issue. It may look like silence. It may sound like "I don't want to argue" or "now's not the right time." But it's not about peace, it's about power. Because when someone consistently shuts down, avoids hard conversations, or walks away the moment things get real, they're not preserving the relationship. They're protecting their comfort. They're choosing silence over resolution, distance over understanding, and in doing so, they gain control. They decide when the conversation starts. They decide when it ends. They decide what gets acknowledged and what gets ignored. And you're left in the dark, spinning, overthinking, sitting alone with all the unresolved tension while they act like nothing ever happened. It's not miscommunication, it's intentional avoidance. It's a way of keeping the emotional spotlight off of them, because real conversation requires vulnerability. It requires facing your own actions, hearing someone else's pain, admitting where you may have fallen short. And for avoidant partners, that feels threatening. So instead of engaging, they withdraw. They go silent. They change the subject. They claim they need time but never return to the topic. And when you bring it up again, they say you're starting drama, that you're too emotional, that you won't let things go. But how can you let go of something that was never resolved? How can you heal from something that was never even acknowledged? You can't, and that's the point, because as long as they avoid the conversation, they avoid accountability. They hold all the power without ever having to be emotionally available, and that silence, that pause. It isn't neutral, it's heavy. It fills the space with anxiety, confusion, and doubt. It keeps you chasing, apologizing, compromising just to get them to open back up. But the truth is, love isn't found in avoidance. It's not found in walking away every time someone gets honest. It's found in staying, in listening, in showing up when it's uncomfortable, because conflict isn't the problem, disagreement isn't the issue. The real damage is done in the silence, the long, cold silences that replace connection with control, the silences that punish vulnerability instead of honoring it, and over time, those silences grow louder than words ever could. They say, your feelings don't matter. They say, I'm not available for this. They say, you're on your own. And when someone keeps using silence to shut down every serious moment, they're not protecting the relationship, they're dominating it. So if someone constantly goes quiet the moment things get serious, if they retreat every time you try to build something real, understand this. It's not a communication issue. It's a pattern, a strategy. A way to stay in control without ever having to be vulnerable. But connection requires courage. It requires showing up when it's uncomfortable. It requires talking, listening, working through the hard stuff, not avoiding it. Because silence may keep the peace on the surface, but underneath it erodes trust. It turns love into confusion and intimacy into a guessing game. You deserve someone who doesn't run when things get real. Someone who leans in, not out, who talks it through even when it's messy, who chooses clarity over control. Because real love doesn't disappear in silence. It speaks, it listens, it stays.